Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of the CCSN podcast. I am Chris here, along with my friend Chase. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing great. Well, we got a lot to talk about today, as usual. Starting off with the MLB, we got Albert Pujols on the way to 700 home runs, 692 career home runs currently. He's hit 5 home runs in his last 6 games. You think he's going to hit them, reach 700?
Absolutely. I think that the Cardinals, it was kind of wishy-washy whether they were going to make the playoffs or not. It's kind of looking like they're starting to lock it up. And towards the end of the season, they've got a couple of easy series coming up. And I think Albert Pujols is going to get his shot. And he's on fire right now. If there's ever a time to do it, it's right now. I don't think he'll come back next season if he doesn't, though.
Yeah, he's already announced that this is his last season no matter what. And it would just be a shame if he hits like 699 home runs and he just doesn't hit that 700th. But it's really looking possible now. I mean, I guess if you told me like a month ago that he was going to hit 700, I wouldn't really, believe you. I mean, I think going to the All-Star break, he had 5. So it didn't look that promising, but the man's hot right now. And he hit 2 off Madison Bumgarner. He's having a great year. I mean, his OPS is over 800, has great numbers, and he's hitting over 270. He's having his best year since his first year in Anaheim. So that's just telling you something. He should have always stayed in St. Louis, in my opinion, but he's looking great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it feels like it's almost a done deal that he's going to hit it at this point because he's so hot. And for a while, he was kind of slow starting the season off, not very great, and they weren't playing him every day, so you didn't really know, hey, is he going to even get the opportunities to hit 700? But now he's arguably the best hitter on the team recently. You got to play him, and he's going to get those opportunities. And I don't see any way if he stays even remotely close to as hot as he's been that he doesn't hit it.
Yeah, so I really hope he reaches it. I think everyone in baseball wants to see him reach it. How can you not love Big Albert Pujols? One of the best first basemen of all time, and I just been watching this guy since I remember watching baseball. So you can't not root for him. Moving on, we got the Padres and the National Series. I feel like they've played the Nationals like 15 times since Soto's gotten traded to the Padres. But Josh Bell has been the story the past 2 games. Game 1, the Padres won 2-1 with a solo shot from Soto and Josh Bell, so that was kind of funny. And then last night, the Padres also won 2-1 by a 2-run home run by Josh Bell. Those are his first 2 home runs as a San Diego Padres. So starting to heat up, and it came against the worst team in baseball, but also his former team. So it must have felt pretty good for him to finally get those over the fence.
Yeah, Bell's been a very underrated player for a very long time now. A switch hitter, he's got that power in him. He's really a great player. It got overshadowed by the fact that he just was on a crappy team in Pittsburgh, and then he got traded to pretty much just a shitty team in Washington. So there's really a lot to like with Josh Bell, and I think that was kind of an overlooked part of that deal there. I wanted to talk a little bit about Josh Hader if we're on the topic of the Padres now. He is getting a lot of hate right now, and like I get it. He has been terrible. He's been removed from the closer role. But what a lot of people don't understand with Hader is he just went through probably the most difficult time of his life, like imaginable. Most people don't know this, but his wife went into labor prematurely, and it did not go very well. The baby survived and everything, but he has been struggling with that recently. And for a guy his role is so much about his mental state, obviously he's going to struggle a bit, especially if right after that he's traded to a brand new team. So I feel like people just need to start giving Josh Hader a little bit of slack. The velocity's all there, spin rate's still the same, he's got the same stuff. It just hasn't all been working for him yet. He's still that great player. He's still the best closer in baseball. Just give him some time.
I think what Melvin did was a great move, moving him out of the closer role and just saying, we're gonna have a little break, a little mind rest, and that's what he needs. And especially before the big playoff push, heading into September, I think this was the best move they possibly could have made. And there's no doubt in my mind that even by the end of this year, and especially by the beginning of next season, he'll be right back to being top 2 closer in the game, top 3 closer in the game. So, I mean, when people are already calling this trade a bust for the Padres, I mean, I just don't really see it. How can you judge it off of less than a month of production already? So definitely, I think Hader's going to return to his, 99 overall form. So we'll definitely see. Got to give him a little time, especially what you just mentioned. I mean, that's awful to hear, but Padres fans, relax. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. But speaking of the Padres, if I was a Padres fan, I still, even though we won the past two games, you can't be that happy with these performances. I mean, the best teams in baseball, especially offensively on paper, should be scoring more than 2 runs in consecutive games against the Washington Nationals. I mean, and this has just been an ongoing problem for the Padres ever since the trade deadline. I mean, they seem to just can't get runs on the board consistently. And especially come playoff time when you're not going to be facing Patrick Corbin and you're going to be facing pitchers, from the Dodgers, from the Phillies, potentially the Cardinals, just all these big teams. You can't do that. You can't put up 2 runs against them and expect to win. So that's just something that the Padres definitely got to work on. And I'd be a little scared if I was a Padres fan about the offense right now.
Well, yeah, especially when you look down at your phone to look at the Padres score and you see that Patrick Corbin is through 6 scoreless innings. So I that's got to be the first time he's done that this whole season. You like the talent on paper with the Padres, but it's just not meshing. And a lot of times that just kind of happens in baseball. This team, it's not there this season. Maybe they get hot, but we're starting to come towards the end of the season. Like, what's changing in that roster to help them? Before it was Tatis is coming back. Well, yeah, we'll be fine once Tatis comes back, but that's not happening. So I'd be very scared if I were a Padres fan.
It's now or never for this team to get hot. I mean, it just seems like there's only one player consistently hitting in like a week span. Like Manny Machado, after his "I'm fucking Manny Machado" comment, looked like the best player in baseball, and you're like, oh my god, so Machado,
He's Manny fucking Machado.
He's Manny fucking Machado. But then you look at the past 2 games, and I think he had 1 hit. And I mean, you can't expect that from your top guy on your team playing against the Nationals. These are supposed to be those easy wins that are supposed to help them propel their playoff chances, and that's just not happening. I mean, I know Phillies fans have been sweating recently after that recent Mets series, especially after last night with that heartbreaker. And if I'm being honest, that was the worst managed game I've seen Thompson manage so far. I mean, as soon as they put David Robertson in, even up by 1, I knew that was not going to be a good inning. You can't put a 38-year-old reliever out there after he just pitched 2 innings the night before, threw over 30 pitches. You throw someone else out there, you throw Coonrod out there. You just can't do that. You can't put all that pressure on a 38-year-old arm with 3 pitches. It's just not going to work.
Understandably, like that situation, that can't happen. But the reason it happened was not because Rob Thompson made a mistake. It was because all of the starters throughout that series made multiple mistakes. I'm not sure if you saw this, but the Mets are 9-0 in games against Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola this season. That's unacceptable for the Phillies. And you look at it, they were getting no length out of their starters in any of these games. The bullpens were forced to come in early, and when you have injuries to the bullpen, like Corey Knebel and Sir Anthony Dominguez, who are arguably your 2 best bullpen pitchers right now, you're not going to have anybody to close those games out in those high-scoring games where you need a lot of relief pitchers. That's when you see guys like David Robertson coming in after throwing 30 pitches last night, and you see a guy who's never pitched in his life before coming in to get the final out of the game, which he was not able to do. Well, he was, but not until he allowed a moonshot. So there's just a lot of problems, but it starts with the rotation that we've been really talking up for a couple of episodes now. This rotation on paper is one of the best in the league, but when they face good teams, they have not been that. So there's all of this stuff to love from the Phillies on paper, but they just haven't been putting it on the field against the great teams yet.
Well, going back to my one point about yesterday, I mean, definitely having no Sir Anthony Dominguez or Knebel definitely hurts you. But first of all, you can't throw a guy out there with no experience. I just think, especially against a team like the Mets, who have a powerful offense and they've been killing you all series. And especially a guy like Coonrod, who's looked pretty damn good since he's come back off the IL. So I just think you've already have 2 of your main guys already out on IL. You don't want to get David Robertson hurt too. So I just think that was a bad move by Thompson. But winning that game yesterday, you split the series and they lost the series 3-1. They haven't won a single series against the Mets this year. They got swept 0 for 6. And that just looks terrible. You can't do that. And I don't care how many times you beat the Nationals. I don't care how many times you beat the Reds or the Pirates. You're not going to be playing them in the playoffs. And that's just how it is. And if you told me before that series, Bailey Falter would have the best starting pitching performance between Aaron Nola, Kyle Gibson, and Zach Wheeler, I would have laughed at you. So shout out Bailey Falter, though. He did what he had to do.
Yeah, well, this starts to raise the question: what happens now with that last wild card spot? The Brewers have probably the easiest schedule in baseball coming up right now, and they're not hot, but they're just sitting around. They're not cold. They're not on fire. They're just kind of there. So one of these teams is going to have to pick it up coming down the stretch between the Phillies and the Brewers for that last playoff spot. And right now, I'm kind of feeling like the Brewers are more likely to do it.
I just can't see a team led by Andrew McCutchen and Hunter Renfroe offensively making the playoffs. I mean, you can't expect Andrew McCutchen to keep this hot streak up for much longer. I mean, he's one of the streakiest players in the game. We all know he went on that, I think it was like 0 for 40 streak earlier in the season. So, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'm not that scared of the Brewers, but one of the teams got to pick it up. It's between those two. I mean, I think, or the Padres too. They don't have a lock either yet. So it's the Braves are already a shoe-in in the playoffs. So it's definitely coming down to the Padres, Phillies, and Brewers for those last two spots. And it's going to be a fun race down the stretch.
Yeah, a lot of easy schedules too. So it really just comes down to who can capitalize on their opportunities. All three of those teams have probably bottom 10 easy schedules of the league.
Harper's coming back September 1st. So let's see what that can happen. Let's see what that can do for the Phillies. I mean, not having his arm out there in right field is definitely going to be detrimental for them. But adding a bat like that to the offense, I mean, you can't knock that. The Phillies have had trouble scoring with runners in scoring position recently. So, anything could help right now. But I think Phillies fans are overreacting a little bit to Bryce Harper coming back. They're acting like, it's a shoe-in for the playoffs. And we all know a designated hitter can only do so much. I mean, he's up there 3 times a game. You're not having his great arm in the outfield anymore. And, it's going to be a little scary come playoff time.
Yeah, especially for a team that really going into the season relied so heavily on Harper's defense. They signed Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber expecting them to rotate as a DH and Harper to be pretty much their everyday right fielder. They haven't had him in right field for a single game this season. So it's definitely been something that the Phillies have had to work around. And you saw early on that they were struggling with that. But recently, their defense has stepped up since the Keith Hernandez debacle. So there's been a lot of improvement with the Phillies. But when you look at Bryce Harper, the value it's nerfed there. There's not the same. You're not getting Bryce Harper coming back. You're getting Bryce Harper's bat coming back. And even as he said, he's at 85-90% right now. Which if a player is telling you 85-90%, I don't know if I'm fully willing to believe that. If I were 85%, I'd probably say I'm 95%. But I feel like he's probably a little bit less than that, especially coming off of that series of an injury. So kind of dial back the expectations on the Phillies going into the postseason this year, in my opinion.
All right, well, it's going to be a fun race, definitely. And I mean, just one more comment on the Keith Hernandez thing. He was definitely right about the defensive errors last night. I mean, Alec Boehm, even though he had 2 3-run home runs, he looked like, I'm going to be honest, he looked like shit at third base yesterday. Rhys Hoskins tripped up on a beautiful pickoff play later in the game on Starling Marte. So, and he ended up scoring on that play. So there's just those little things of the Phillies that are probably, could keep them out of the postseason. So they got to clean that up. But moving on, I wanted to talk about my 2 favorite pitchers this season that aren't really getting talked about. And to start it off, Johnny Cueto. I mean, this guy came out of nowhere, but no one was really expecting this. He's 36 years old. He has a 2.58 ERA, 73 strikeouts, and a 1.16 WHIP. He wasn't even on an opening roster to start this season, and the White Sox signed him, I believe, back in early May. They're like, we'll give him a shot. We'll see how it is. And he's been one of the best starters in baseball. I mean, this is great to see. He definitely earned himself a contract for next year. And you love seeing these old guys go out there and still compete. I mean, I know he's not on Verlander level, but I just remember watching these guys when I was 9 years old dominate, and now they're still dominating, and I'm almost 20. So it's great to watch that. And it's just a shame that the White Sox are a complete disaster this year because on paper, that starting rotation is filthy and they're probably not even going to make the playoffs. So,
Yeah, Cueto's been the best thing to happen to the White Sox this season by far. I mean, it's so fun to watch him. He's basically Nestor Cortez if he was just a little bit better, honestly, and a righty. But like, he's probably my favorite pitcher to watch right now, Johnny Cueto. It's just he's not the best, he's not the flashiest, he doesn't strike out a lot of batters, but he's just fun to watch. He's got the movements, the fakes. He had the head fake the other day. He is just a ray of light on a very dim White Sox team this season.
yeah, and I mean he can go deep in the games. In his last 6 appearances, he's gone more than 7 innings in 5 of them. So I mean, he's showing that he still has it at 36 years old. And Giants fans were calling this one of the worst contracts in baseball a couple of years ago when they're probably like, where was this when we signed him? I mean, they had a first straight. It was
a terrible contract for them, but
he's coming back to life. And White Sox fans, for your sake, I hope you can find a way to sneak into the playoffs, but I don't really see it happening. You guys are a disaster right now. You guys remind me a lot of the LA Lakers. If any NBA fans want a little comparison right there, everything has to be going right for you guys to win. Another guy that I really like is Tristan McKenzie right now. He had a 14 strikeout game a couple of days ago. And, the Cleveland Guardians, baby, they're looking great right now. They have the top spot in that division right now. I'm just really excited for that team. They actually made the top 10 in power rankings this week. So I was excited to see that. Put a little respect on Cleveland's name.
Sticks is an ace. I got to put that out there. Sticks will be an ace at some point in his career. Maybe not right now, I guess. Although I think he has the stuff and he's been pretty dominant this season. You could put him in that conversation. But every time I watch this guy on the mound, I see the it factor from him. Everything. His delivery is so consistent. His release point's always the same. I love Tristan McKenzie. I absolutely with you on that.
He's only 25 years old, 6'5", 165 pounds. You can obviously tell why he has that nickname Sticks. But, I mean, his 3.11 ERA, 138 strikeouts, which is top 20, and he's 6th in WHIP, which I think is extremely impressive. A 0.96 WHIP. I mean, that is the best 1-2 duo. Well, not the best, but top 5 duo definitely in the league right now with Shane Bieber and Tristan McKenzie. And, I talked about this the last couple episodes, but I really hope we get to see them in the playoffs because, pitching wins playoff games. And that's been obvious the past couple of years. You'd rather have the best starting rotation than the best lineup, in my opinion. So, I'd be a little scared if I'm playing the Guardians come playoff time.
Yeah, and they have an elite closer in class. He's probably my favorite pitcher in the league. Like as far as just pure stuff, he's so fun to watch. I do like the Guardians and what they're building. But on the topic of the Guardians, I have been arguing on Twitter with a couple people recently about who should be the Rookie of the Year. And there are some Guardian fans that will look me straight in the eye and say Stephen Kwan. And he is incredible. In his own right. He bats over 300, which maybe if this were 30 years ago, he would have won the Rookie of the Year. But we have 2 generational talents like fighting it out for Rookie of the Year between Rutschman and J-Rod. And I don't understand why people really believe that Quan is in there. And on a different note, I love this Rookie of the Year race. I can't predict it at all, honestly.
I agree with you on that. I think it's definitely just a 2-man race right now. And Stephen Kwan doesn't give me the superstar vibes that Rutschman and Rodriguez give me, obviously. And I think that's just like what it comes down to. Not if a Cleveland Guardians fan could look you straight in the eye and tell you they'd rather have Stephen Kwan on their team over those two, I mean, they're just obviously a biased. He's going through great stretch right now ever since the end of the All-Star break, but Rutschman literally is a top 3 catcher in the game in his first season. I mean, I think he has the top 3 OPS since the All-Star break too. And Julio Rodriguez has been a superstar since the second week in the season. So, I mean, you can't count that out.
I absolutely agree. I don't understand really why people are putting him in that conversation, but he's a fun player. He started off the season incredibly hot and he gets on base. I see him sticking around the league for a very long time. He's got great bat to ball skills, but he's not that superstar. Like
he's a role player. That's what he is. And that's okay. I mean, role players win World Series games, and everyone's going to be a superstar. And Stephen Kwan will never be a superstar, and that is okay. He'll get a good contract though, so I don't think he'll be complaining. Um, moving on, Dustin May. We've been hyping him up all year, and his first game back, he looked just as good as he ever been. 5 innings pitched, only 1 hit, and he had 9 strikeouts. And those 9 strikeouts, he made those batters look way off balance. I mean, this guy is great, and it's so funny. Like, imagine being a Dodgers fan. You're like, all right, we lost Walker Buehler for the season, but we got Dustin May coming back, and then he goes out there and he just dominates. So the Dodgers are just levels ahead of every other MLB team, in my opinion, right now. They are smooth sailing. I cannot think of a time this season that they have gone through a slump. And I feel like every team, maybe other than the Astros, I guess you could say, you could think of a time they went through a slump. So, I mean, it's just extremely impressive. They've already won 80 plus games, and I don't see them stopping anytime soon. They have a chance to break the all-time win record. I mean, we all know what happened when the last time the team won broke the record. They were a first round exit, but I don't see anyone stopping the Dodgers, to be honest.
Not right now, definitely not. And with the way Joey Gallo's been playing, that's another name. But I
Gallo,
think that,
it's all confidence with Gallo.
well, that's all it is in baseball, honestly. It's really just the mindset. And he was just one of those guys that didn't work in New York. And there's just a bunch of guys like that. Benintendi might be another one. But honestly, Dustin May has to have the best stuff in the game. I don't know if you saw the stat that he threw 3 of the highest spin rate pitches out of the top 5 in his first start the other day. That's like absolutely incredible. I don't understand how he's that good throwing that fast and that consistently after that kind of injury. He is incredible. I can't say it enough. Dustin May is probably one of the premier pitchers in the league, and he's their 5th man in the rotation right now.
Yeah,
it's insane. The Dodgers are an absolute powerhouse,
and they do it right. They do it right though.
They build it in house. I love it.
And I mean, I just love it. But Andrew Benintendi, on that topic, he had his first home run. He did his first anything for the New York Yankees yesterday. I mean, the Yankees finally won a game. And shout out to you, Yankees fans. I mean, they avoided the sweep against the Blue Jays. And Nestor Cortez, I mean, people were saying this guy was going to take a little slump, and he's been fantastic. So, I mean, of recently, his ERA is still under 3, pitched a great game against the Blue Jays yesterday. And I can't say anything other than that. I mean, he's been their most consistent starter, and he's making under $1 million. So, I mean, that's just really funny to me.
Yeah, I'll make the Cueto comparison again. They just are incredibly fun to watch, and they're both also efficient, which makes it so much better. Every time Nestor Cortez is playing, you turn the game on. They might not be a great team right now, the Yankees, but he's a fun pitcher to watch, and they're a fun team to watch. So you turn him on. He's good for ratings at least.
Yeah, really. Well, actually, this is one thing I was going to say. I just don't want to steer off of it real quick. But going back to Dustin May and his injury, as you said, I mean, it's pretty crazy seeing how surgeries work different for different pitchers. I mean, Dustin May obviously is younger than Noah Syndergaard, but this is just like the first person that comes to mind. Syndergaard came back from his surgery. Obviously, he had to adjust his game. He's throwing a lot slower now. He has to work in different pitches. He just can't throw that 101 mile per hour fastball into the 7th inning and dominate with it. And then there's guys like Dustin May who frankly looks better since getting this surgery.
His spin rate was going up. It was at 3,300 on average on his fastball, which is absolutely incredible. But what the thing is with Noah Syndergaard, I think, is the way that he attacked his rehab. If you look at Noah Syndergaard's Instagram, he is like this hippie dude who went completely natural and herbal with his rehab from his surgery. And I think Dustin May probably just went the medical route. I'm not fully in tune to what he did for his rehab. I'm sure only his doctors are, but I'm sure he went the medical route, unlike Noah Syndergaard, who we saw a huge drop off after that. He was openly on Instagram condemning the medical stuff and saying that his alternative route was better and that it was helping him heal faster and that he was going to come back stronger. And now he didn't. So we see kind of like there's a bit of a bravado thing with Noah Syndergaard. And that's what a lot of people of like the Mets fans and the Angels fans tend to say about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked decent so far for the Phillies, but he hasn't pitched against an impressive opponent yet. I mean, I think he's pitched against his 3 starts for the Nationals, the Marlins, and the Reds. So,
In
I
the
mean,
games that I've watched, he has not pitched well at all. I mean, he like you said, they were against good or bad teams, but the velocity was all gone. The spin rate was way down. He was missing his pitches in like a lot of areas. I think he was topping out at 94 on a sinker, really, and his fastball was down to like 89 at some points. So there is a lot to be worried about with Noah Syndergaard, who was just traded for a really elite prospect in Logan Hop, who's I think 62 in the top 100, and he's only rising right now. So yeah, that might not be a great trade, especially with half a year of his deal left.
yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens with that down the line. I mean, you're asking this guy to be your 4th in your rotation. So at least for the Phillies case, you're not asking him to be your 3. So we'll see what happens down the line with him. And one thing that I definitely wanted to mention is this Bailey Falter start. I mean, I feel like it's time to see what he can do a little more at the MLB level, especially for the Phillies. I mean, he showed he can do it against the Mets. I'm not saying give him a starting role right away, but give him 2 innings out of the pen, see what he can do as a long man. They obviously need it right now, but that was just my final statement about the injuries and how crazy it is how different people rehab.
Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be looked at a little bit more closely, I think, because there's same surgeries. A lot of different guys come back so differently. I don't know what the different factors are, but there's got to be something.
I mean, Brian Wilson, over 10 years ago now, he was one of the best closers in the league for the Giants, won 2 rings. He purposely threw out his arm so we could get Tommy John surgery because he wanted to come back and throw harder. I mean, he was a little crazy, fear the beard, but it's just crazy to think people do that on purpose because they think I'm going to come back stronger. I'm going to be throwing faster after this surgery. And I feel like a couple years ago when you would hear Tommy John surgery, you'd be like, they're done. But now it could be better when he comes back. So you never know with that. And it's just crazy.
It's like an ACL
in general.
It's like the ACL in the NFL now. Like before, that was a death sentence. I mean, you look at a guy like I can't remember his name, quarterback for the Jets, Joe Namath. He tore his ACL, never recovered. Literally never recovered. Was terrible after that. He was arguably that's the reason he's in the Hall of Fame is his career before his ACL tear, which was literally a college career and 2 years in the NFL. So like the way that modern medicine has progressed is really like amazing, and I can't wait to see going forward how much better it gets. Like, do we see 2-week recoveries from surgery? I don't know. What's the future with this?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see. I mean, it's great to see. I mean, when your favorite player now tears his ACL, you don't have to be depressed for 2 weeks. You can be like,
unless your favorite player is David Bakhtiari, then he's out for 2 years.
Yeah, really. I mean, I can't remember the last time that man stepped on the field. They finally activated him. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's a good sign for Packers fan, especially with that offensive line that has a lot of questions with it right now. But talking about the Yankees, going back to them, I have a question for you. Is it time to finally pull the plug on Aaron Boone?
Yeah, I guess. Like, what's the change to make with this Yankees team if you're not willing to change around personnel, which they've shown that they're not? Like, they're not willing to call up their guys out of the minor league, so that's not in play right now. They're not willing to move on from any of these huge contracts that they got. Literally, the only player they were willing to move on from was Gallo, and like you were forced to. The fans were screaming at you to get rid of this guy. So, what is the solution here? Do you fire the manager that just led you to a 50-17 start? Is that the solution here? I don't know. Personally, I think I'd wait and just let the season play out. But do they have the luxury of doing that with Aaron Judge on the last year of his deal? I don't know what their plans are with Judge. Do they plan to extend him? I don't think so. So this might be the time to win now. So bring in a new voice if you're gonna really go in, because Aaron Boone's not cutting it right now.
And it's crazy because his first 2 seasons as the Yankees manager, he had 100 wins. And last season, you could quite frankly call it a disaster. I mean, Yankees fans wanted this guy gone. And a lot of people around baseball thought Boone was going to get fired and they were going to move off this past offseason. But they extended him on a 4-year contract, which makes it a lot harder to move on from him now. I mean, this Yankees front office has made it pretty clear that if they have someone on payroll, they are going to play it out. So that's another thing to look at. And obviously, you could think of a lot of games of last season as a Yankees fan where you were like, holy shit, why is Aaron Boone still the manager? He is blown more than 10 games. You could definitely think of last season. But this year, I mean, he's been one of the smartest managers in the league, and you can't take that off of him. You can't take that away from him, excuse me. But one thing that I definitely can see that is a problem is he kind of goes away in the bad moments, if that makes sense. He according to people in the locker room, he's not a guy to call a player out, to get in a player's face, to yell at a player when they're not hustling, and that's concerning. I mean, I feel like the best managers have to find like an in between, and you don't want to be a hard head all the time, but you don't want to be a softy the other half of the time. You don't want to be a softy all the time either. So you have to find it in the middle. And apparently that's the reason they fired Joe Girardi. I mean, this guy was hard on the players, and the players didn't like that, so they brought in a guy like Aaron Boone. We obviously know Joe Girardi wasn't the answer, but I'm going to be honest. I don't think Aaron Boone's the answer. I mean, a thing I can think of I think this was last year or 2 years ago. If you remember, he was saying savages in the box. Oh, we got savages in the box. And then they weren't savages anymore. Yeah, where are the savages? And I mean, he showed a little bit of emotion a couple days ago in his press conference for like the first time ever. And he wasn't just sitting there saying like, we'll be okay. You know, we got this. We got this. I love this team. We keep our heads high. Cool. Keep your heads high, but you got to win. And he showed that emotion a couple of days ago. I mean, he slammed he went like that on the table. And he's like, we got to win. We're right there. And that's what it takes. You know, he's got to show that he's pissed off at this team right now. He knows it can be better. And you actually brought up Aaron Judge earlier, and I feel like that's a good point. Where is he in all of this? You know, I mean, he's supposed to be the captain. All the teams are, he's not officially the captain, but all the fan base wants him to be the MLB fans. Even if you hate the Yankees, you want this man to be the captain of the Yankees. It just seems like such a good fit. And I frankly have not seen a single thing of this guy talking about, you know, the turnaround they have to make or the recent struggles they've been on or just anything. And that's what you want from your guy, especially who is probably going to get close to $500 million in free agency. So I don't know. I think it's a little weird situation. And this is just making me think, I think he's gone, frankly, this offseason.
Well, yeah,
which is going to be.
Go ahead. Especially if they like underperform going into the postseason. Why extend him? This is just another Stanton situation. If you look at the two players, they are almost identical with their frame and how they play the game. When Stanton was in his prime, hitting like 60 home runs, yeah, he had the best exit velocity in the league. He was incredible to watch. He was so fun. There was nobody else doing it like Stanton. Nobody was hitting home runs like Stanton. Nobody had that exit velocity. But that goes away with age. Those are skills that don't progress well with time. So I don't know that I'm willing to pay all that to Judge when I've got a guy like that, Giancarlo Stanton, on the roster who's already burned me. Like, he has not been worth that contract, and you're going to be paying him that contract when he's 37 years old. Do you want to do that again? And then you also have the Garrett Cole contract on top of that. If you mess this up with Aaron Judge and the wrong, and like he just falls off a cliff like Stanton did, how do you move forward? You're the Yankees, but you don't have endless money. You're going to be paying close to $1 billion to Cole, Stanton, and Judge. That's not sustainable, especially if you want to pay any of the other players. I think you just got to let them walk and pray that the guys in your minor leagues, which is they have a great farm, you just got to hope that those guys pan out. And honestly, who better to pray to pan out than Peraza, Volpe, and Dominguez? Those are three prospects that I have such a high regard for. They're incredible. They have all the tools, and they're in the best situation for them to progress and be successful in the MLB. So I think that it's about time to just let him go. There was a lot of the talk about him wanting to be the captain, and you see all these videos of him at these charity events and all this, but that's not what it means to be the Yankees captain. What it means to be the Yankees captain is to be a leader and to own that clubhouse, basically. Aaron Judge does not do that. Like you said, where is Aaron Judge right now?
Yeah, so I mean, it's scary as a Yankees fan. It's going to be a little sad this offseason where you get that breaking news. Aaron Judge leaves New York, but we're talking about, yeah, I mean, I'll talk about that next episode, but I have a little breakdown about that. But Yankees have really good prospects. I mean, you know, you could look at this and say, you know, we're down in the dumps, but you're really not. You have a top 10 farm system in baseball. I mean, you got a guy like Cabrera who's already made like 10 superstar defensive plays out there. He obviously has the bat. So I mean, it's not do or die right now. It's the smarter time for the Yankees. I mean, I think it's obviously time to move. If I was the Yankees and we make the playoffs and we're a and we do anything less than make the World Series, it is time to get rid of Brian Cashman. It is time to get rid of Aaron Boone, even with 3 years left on the contract, in my opinion. It's time to start over. It's not going to work. I don't care if you win 100 games in the regular season. What is it, 5 years ago at this point? Cool. You never made the World Series. And frankly, if you're the New York Yankees, you have the top 3 highest payroll in baseball. You sign Garrett Cole. You trade for Giancarlo Stanton. You can't make the World Series one time. It's time to move on, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree.
But to go off a little smoother note today on the MLB, I did a little top 10 free agency for 2023, not in particularly any order, but I mean, this year should be stacked. I mean, my top 10, I have Aaron Judge, Jacob deGrom was an opt-out decision, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, another guy with an opt-out, Wilson Contreras, Carlos Correa, another guy with an opt-out, but those are the only opt-outs. Josh Bell, Jock Peterson, Martin Perez, Dansby Swanson, Jose Abreu, who, at first I was like, he's been having a little fall off season. No, he hasn't.
No,
He's
still
been
that
actually
guy.
really he's still that guy, and he's been one of the only consistent hitters on the White Sox this year. And I have number 10. You could put a lot of guys at 10, but I didn't want to go past it. I have JD Martinez, who's still producing. He's having a little bit of an off year this year, but he's still a good bat for a lot of teams in the whole, and now in the AL and the NL, because you can DH in both leagues, which is great for a guy like that. I mean, a lot of teams are going to be calling this offseason, but I think it's going to be one of the best off seasons of all time. And I mean, I know you say this every year, but last offseason was kind of weak. I feel like you didn't really have like a huge superstar go to any team. If I'm thinking correctly, could you think of any superstar who was signed to this offseason? I can think of all-stars, but I can't think of superstars.
Yeah, not really.
And if you're being honest, we have a top 3, the best position and player this season available, and you have, in my humble opinion, the best pitcher of all time in Jacob deGrom.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, on just going off a little bit about this, people might say, oh, he doesn't have the numbers. His WAR isn't even 7. We're talking about when this guy is pitching. I cannot name another pitcher that I would want on the mound to save my life, to win a World Series game. I cannot think of any other guy. He is a video game. This dude is a machine, and I can't think of anybody else. So, I mean, I think it's sad that it's going to take, like 2 to 3 more years of dominance from Jacob deGrom for people to I feel like fully give him his respect. But, I'm excited to see if, he opts out and there's a market for him. And obviously there's going to be a market, but what's it going to be? I mean, if Max Scherzer gets that contract, what does Jacob deGrom get? So it's going to be fun to watch. And if he opts out, I mean, does he stay with the Mets? Do the Mets give two pitchers in their starting rotation over $40 million a year? Or does he go to a team, like the Braves or like the Cardinals or just one of those teams? And I can't see him going to anyone else other than, like 5 teams maybe, but it's going to be really exciting to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with all those names on there, but there's one missing. There's just one that I think you overlooked, and that would be Carlos Rodon. That is a huge name in this offseason, and there are a lot.
I didn't say him. You're right.
There are a lot of great pitchers in this offseason. I think Rodon is premier. He hasn't had the greatest season of all time this year. Obviously, he's sitting at, I think it's a 3.75 ERA, but he has the stuff. He's got the body of work, and he's just on a bad team right now. I think that if you were to put him into a good situation, and he's going to get a huge contract this season, I think that it's going to be a very underrated move this year.
So the Giants are a very interesting team going into this offseason. And I think they definitely made a few mistakes by not trading guys like Rodon or Jock Peterson, especially when you ultimately could have re-signed them in the offseason coming up. But they're going to have a lot of money off the books this offseason. And I think that they are looking at that. They have Brendan Belt's $18 million a year coming off. They have Evan Longoria's $17.5 million coming off. They have Jock Peterson's contract coming off, which is, obviously I think they're thinking to themselves, I wish we gave him more than a 1 year deal. You could have Carlos Rendon's $21 million coming off the books, if he decides to opt out. But other than Brandon Crawford's, 2 years left on his extension, which I think is like $16 million a year. I really can't. And they have a couple bad contracts, but not terrible. I mean, they have this Anthony DiStefani, who he's making like $13 million a year, which he was hurt this year, but that was a little dumb. I mean, I think he has 3 years left on that deal. They have Alex Cobb making $10 million. Who else do they have? One other starting pitcher who I thought was just a little silly of a signing. He was from the Dodgers. I can't think of his name right now, but Alex Wood. He's making over $10 million too. But if you're calling $10 million a bad contract, especially for a team like the Giants, who they want to spend this offseason, it's going to be fun to watch because they've made it very clear we are not rebuilding. And the Giants have been very hesitant to rebuild for the past 15 years at this point. So not 15, past 5 years. So I think they're going to be I think they're going to pull like a Texas Rangers this offseason. They're going to go out there and they're going to sign two big names and they're going to try to fill the roster with other guys who just want to come in and win.
I feel like Correa is a good option for them.
See, it's funny because if you're Carlos Correa, I mean, I'm sorry, Minnesota people, but if it was any other team, I think he would stay because the Twins,
$35 million, yeah.
Yeah, but I just there's been all these rumors that he's just not liking it that much in Minnesota. I mean, if I'm being honest, I would say for $35 million, but that team is good on paper, and as we've mentioned a couple recent episodes, I could definitely see they're one of those teams where I could definitely see them in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised, but I just don't see them making really any noise come playoff time. Their pitching rotation just isn't it for me, and it's just fun to see a guy like Carlos Correa in a big market. So going to San Francisco, that only thing is, would the Giants be willing to either try somehow to trade Brandon Crawford's contract, or you got to move him to a different position?
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, that's something to work out.
Then you got Maruccio down there too at this. Although he's probably going to move to the outfield eventually, or not. Luciano.
So you could always do that. So yeah. I mean, they're going to be a very interesting and fun team to watch this off season. But if they want to compete, they're going to have to sign those big names. I mean, you got the Padres and the Giants, right? I mean, the Padres and the Dodgers right there. So they're going to be definitely fun to watch this off season. But you got anything else for the MLB to talk about?
No, not for the MLB.
All right, so I'm ready to move on to the NFL. And how about Tua? He looked like Tua. He didn't really shine in any way to me. He had a good pocket presence, I guess you could say, in his first postseason game, but that's really it. That's all I saw from him, if I'm being honest. He didn't make any elite throws. I mean, the best thing I saw from him was that throw to Mike Gesicki. I don't know if you saw, but It was over the middle, and it was it wasn't a completion, but that was probably the best pass I saw from him the most impressive pass I saw from him all postseason. Obviously, a very small sample size, but Dolphins fans think this dude is it. They still think this dude is Drew Brees, and I think they're very they just don't want to admit this dude isn't it. And we'll see this season, but I still just do not see it with Tua.
Yeah, his issue for the majority of his career so far has been the fact that he's been trying to do these off-schedule plays when he's not that kind of player. He's more of a guy that should be working within the flow of the offense. But that comes down to the fact that he didn't have an offense to work with. He had two offensive coordinators. There was really nothing going on there. There was nothing in Miami for him to work with. So now they have weapons. McDaniels is a offensive minded coach. So there is a little bit of something for him to work with now. The offensive line added a great left tackle, but even then,
still a little shaky.
Yeah, it is still a very shaky offensive line, and their weapons, they've got two guys. I don't like their running backs. Gesicki has not really shown me anything yet in his career except for flashes. So I don't know how to feel about Tua, but I'm a little bit higher on him than I was, say, a week ago because I like the way that I saw the offense from McDaniels working. I like the way that they were like playing to his strengths. He wasn't out there running around. He wasn't out there like the play that comes to mind when I think of Tua is that one where he just threw that ridiculous pass up to the Patriots cornerback when he was getting sacked and just like kind of threw it over his head basically. I don't think we're going to be seeing as much of that out of Tua this year if McDaniels is actually a good coach. So my opinion on Tua comes down to how good McDaniels is at the end of the day.
I think what the Miami Dolphins need, and I agree with you. I think McDaniels will help him a lot. But if Kareem Hunt is on the market, I think they're one of the teams that should absolutely be going after him. And I think, well, you said that running back room just isn't it. I mean, I don't like it. Chase Edmonds and Myles Gaskin in an offense like that. And yeah, so so I just don't know. I don't see it with them. And I think if you want to see the best out of Tua, you need an elite running back who can make plays. Because 5 or 6 of those passes were plays right to the running back, throws to Chase Edmonds, and I don't know. I just don't see it with them, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's
I need more
passes.
Yeah, and so if that's your offense, fine, but I just need a little something more than Chase Edmonds.
I just wonder if now they start moving Tyreek Hill to more of like the Debo role, like a running back almost. Like, is that their player to put in that position? Because before, what we've seen from Tyreek Hill is mostly the deep ball stuff. We've seen a lot of the underneath stuff, but the deep ball stuff is primarily what we were seeing in Kansas City. So I wonder if they just start to change his position at this point. He's obviously a versatile enough player to do it, but that puts like tread on the tires. You don't like seeing that for your wide receivers. So Miami is going to be a big social experiment this season, I think, in that division too, because that's a fairly good division in my opinion.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch, and I don't know. I'm not rooting for Tua's downfall or anything, but I mean, I feel like this is like the season. I mean, you got your weapons, so go out there and prove it. But another guy who actually looked pretty good for the first time, Jordan Love.
Yes.
There was a lot of passes that were dropped that were fantastic throws. There was that back shoulder one in the end zone, which was really good. And there was one play to Amari Rodgers that was a fantastic throw, and Rodgers ended up dropping it. And his confidence in the pocket looked great, and it's great signs for Packers fans, honestly.
Yeah, his ball placement was incredible, which is something that we did not see very much of in his his college tape, I should say. Although there wasn't much college tape, to be honest. It was like one season at Utah State. So really might as well have been using high school tape. But that's what the whole thing is with Jordan Love. He was drafted to be a project, and everyone was like, oh shit, well, why is he not playing? Well, he's a project, and he's sitting in the best situation for any backup quarterback ever. Just sit behind Aaron Rodgers and learn. Just sit and learn. You don't have to do anything. There's no expectations. Literally, you just sit in the background and watch the best quarterback that has ever done the most talented quarterback, not the best, but the most talented quarterback to ever play the game. Just sit and watch him. And Jordan Love is another one of those guys that has all that kind of raw talent, the raw ability. He's got the arm. He's got the mobility. He's got the release point that's so consistent. And you see all that from Jordan Love, and sometimes it doesn't come together, like that Kansas City game where the ball was sailing all over the place. He looked scared, but when he's confident and when he's playing his game like he was the other day, I think he's got the potential to be a top tier quarterback. And that's what the Packers were drafting for. And they're following their plan perfectly right now.
And as you said, I mean, if you're a backup quarterback looking to eventually take over the starting spot, where else would you rather be sitting behind? I mean, I remember when he was originally drafted, a lot of people were saying Aaron Rodgers is going to demand a trade. He's not going to talk to him. All this stupid stuff. And Aaron Rodgers, for what I see, I would want nobody else being my mentor. This dude, he looks like he takes these young quarterbacks under his wing. He has nothing but praise to say about both him and the third string, whose name I can't think of right now. But and another point,
Etley.
Matt LaFleur, who?
Danny Etley.
Yeah. So Matt LaFleur, I mean, Jordan Love is going to be with Matt LaFleur for what it looks like for a very long time. So, I mean, you're going to be with your head coach of the future for multiple years, I think. You're behind, as you said, the most talented quarterback I feel like I've ever seen. And especially when you have kind of a similar, it's hard to compare Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers when it comes to play style, but you know what I mean? They play a similar game, and there's just no better situation for him.
Yeah, and look at the parallels between the situations that Rodgers and Jordan Love went through. Not even just sitting 3 years. The draft situation. Aaron Rodgers, he fell to the late round of the Packers just kind of out of nowhere. Like he was expected to go pretty high. And if you remember back, Jordan Love was drawing Patrick Mahomes comparisons, and this was the year after Patrick Mahomes like blew up. So there were a lot of people expecting Jordan Love to be one of the first quarterbacks off the board, and then he just sat there and he fell and he fell and he fell, and that kind of convinced everybody that he's not that good. But in reality, he just wasn't finished. If you the prospect, the way that Trey Lance was a prospect last year, I'd say Jordan Love was the same thing, just a little bit like less progressed. So, but it just took a little bit longer for him, and now I think he's about ready. He's still got to sit behind Rodgers until he's done. But Jordan Love, he looks like amazing right now. I like what they've got in him.
How many more years do you think Aaron Rodgers plays?
I think Rodgers plays 2 more seasons. I think he finishes out his deal.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, man, if you're Jordan Love and you still get to be the backup
with the Packers. So let me just say, Aaron Rodgers will play 2 more seasons with the Packers.
How old is he now? 36?
He's about like 38. So I think he probably plays 40, but he's a guy that's from the West Coast. He's never played in the West Coast. Like, say in a hypothetical situation, I don't think that this happens, but say Trey Lance doesn't work out. They give him 2 years to try, and he isn't that guy. Age 40 Aaron Rodgers or a quarterback that you're not that fond of. What do? You go and you get Aaron Rodgers, honestly, especially with the Niners. So I could definitely see him going and playing for another team, but that's very far down the line.
Yeah, it would be cool to see that. I mean,
I wanted it to happen. Like I wanted him in the. We talked about it last episode, but in Tampa Bay after Tom Brady retired.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, speaking of Tom Brady, I mean, how about that Raiders news that came out a couple days ago? If I was a Raiders fan, I would hate John Gruden. I mean, this man has made so many errors, you could say, that have just pushed back your franchise. I mean, his questionable draft picks. And I mean, yes, I do like Derek Carr, but if I had the opportunity to get the best quarterback of all time with, I mean, a top 3 tight end of all time, you're going to decline that? Like, it just made no sense to me. And the fact that Al Davis right there wasn't like, get the fuck out of here. Like, and he let that happen. So, I mean, and it all makes sense now. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but remember like last year when Tom Brady was on the shop.
You're sticking with that motherfucker?
You're sticking with and you know, I didn't think it was Derek Carr, to be honest with you, but
no, I thought it was Tua.
Yeah, so I mean, he was looking at houses in Vegas, and you know, Dana White said all, and Gronk literally was like, "Yeah, he's not lying. It's all true." So I mean, that would have been pretty cool to see. But I mean, you can't. If you're Tom Brady or Gronk, I don't think you're hating on your decision to go to Tampa and you won a Super Bowl your first year, and they were pretty damn close to making it back to making it back last year. So
the Raiders
that would have just been fun.
The Raiders are just a hilariously poorly run franchise. They gave John Gruden $100 million. Like, that's all you need to know. John Gruden got $100 million, and he's still getting paid that money. He's not even like coaching the team. Not even close. He's been fired for over half a year now. So he spent 2 years on that deal of a 10-year, $100 million deal. That's embarrassing. And then in that time, they took Clelin Ferrell, number 4. They took Trayvon Mullen in the first round, who's actually not been that bad. Who was the other corner? Damon Arnett was the guy they took in the first round.
Jonathan Abram.
Jonathan Abram was the safety I was trying to think about too. So they've just made so many like mishaps with their picks. They had a year with 3 first-round picks. They came out with their best player being Josh Jacobs, who they're trying to get rid of right now. They're trying to literally force Josh Jacobs off of that team. So the Raiders, they're so fun. They have the best jerseys. They've got probably one of the best fan bases next to the Bills. And like, I love Derek Carr. I love Darren Waller. I love Max Crosby. Their whole team is so much fun, but it's just so poorly run that it's just like you got to have a team like the Raiders. They're never going to win anything, but they're fun to watch.
It's definitely gonna. I mean, I'm excited to watch that Derek Carr Devontae Adams connection this season, though. That's gonna be really fun to watch. Yeah, so
Damn.
that's gonna be awesome. And I mean, they got that. You know, I think they're a sleeper team, and I don't think they're gonna win the Super Bowl or anything. But they got Max Crosby. They have Chandler Jones coming at you now. The defense is pretty decent. I mean, I feel like they're still missing like a cornerback one, I guess you could say, but I don't know. I mean, Devontae Adams, Derek Carr, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfro, decent O-line. The running back room is decent. So, I mean, I can definitely see them making a little noise. It's going to be
like
fun.
The Cardinals. They're built exactly like the Cardinals were last year. The Crosby, Chandler Jones is identical to not identical to JJ Watt, but I guess Crosby and JJ Watt are kind of fairly similar at this point. Watson's a little bit washed. And Chandler Jones, they had no cornerbacks. Trayvon Mullen, the best corner on the roster, is basically Byron Murphy. Their safeties are fairly weak outside of, I guess, Buda Baker's very good. Bad O-line, one great receiver, good tight end, good quarterback. Same team, basically.
I just, the one thing is I would definitely just rather have Derek Carr on my team than Kyler Murray.
Wow, that's a hot take, dude. That is a hot take.
Kyler Murray's not a Super Bowl quarterback to me. I mean, there's just, he's like a baby to me. I don't know. Until I could see this man mature and, I mean, I don't know if you saw that Reddit thing, but when there's Call of Duty tournaments, his stats are literally worse in every single category.
I didn't see that. No.
So, I mean, like, the man has to put the video games down and he has to focus more on winning. Every single, I think it was 3 or 4 weekends throughout the season, there were Call of Duty tournaments, which he has made very clear that he is in love with Call of Duty and he loves all these games. His stats in every single quarterback category go down. The team winning percentage goes down dramatically. And I know it's like a little kind of funny, but he's been playing these games late night with his teammates before a Sunday afternoon game. So, I mean, it's just like all these little things and like, yeah, it's cool to like have these bonding things, whatever. But like, I don't know, if I just paid this dude all this money and there's something in his contract saying and they took it out, but you can't, when you're doing film study, you can't be playing video games. That doesn't count. So that's just like something. And I'm just like, wow, like, I don't know. He has the talent, obviously, but it's just like, it's just not my guy. And the way that roster's built, I mean, I don't know. I just think they are a disaster.
The highs of Kyler Murray are as good as any quarterback in the league, which is why I probably have to have him above Derek Carr, who doesn't have that type of a ceiling. But there is that's a real thing that you're saying that's keeping Kyler Murray back from being a top 5 quarterback. He has all the talent to be that guy, and he's holding himself back, in my opinion.
Like, let me just clarify. I think Kyler Murray, if we're talking straight quarterback, is obviously a better quarterback than Derek Carr. I mean, it's pretty impressive that even if they had to put that film watching thing in where there wasn't a lot of plays last year where he looked confused. I mean, obviously a lot of players came out and said this dude knows the playbook very well. Like, that wasn't really a concern, but I don't know. I just would rather have a guy like Derek Carr leading the team. And I feel like obviously we've talked about this, leadership qualities can only go so far. But Kyler Murray to me doesn't have any of that yet. Until I see that, I'm wrong with a guy like Derek Carr.
I get it.
But another note, Malik Willis again, to me just showed why he was drafted in the 3rd round. He had a couple great plays with his legs, but he had a couple plays with his legs where I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He just tries to do way too much still. I mean, there was that one play where I feel like 98% of quarterbacks would have been sacked. But it would have turned into a safety. I don't know if you saw that. Made a great play with his legs, but then there were a couple plays where he had receivers wide open or he had checkdowns wide open. And the guy is just trying to run around these NFL defenses. And even, I know it's preseason. I know you're playing against, 3rd, 4th stringers, but the talent is so much different than the college level. And he's just got to realize that you're not playing football at Liberty College anymore where you can run around these defenses and act like you're playing Madden in real life. Like, that's not going to happen anymore. And, I don't think he's going to see the field for like 2 years, if I'm being honest with you.
he has all the talent in the world and none of the mental ability, and that was exactly what his scouting report was coming in. That's what everybody knew about him. That's what we were expecting, and we're seeing it come to fruition now. Like you said, that showed why he was a third round pick. If a guy with all that talent had any bit of mental processing like that could translate to the NFL, he would have been a top 10 pick, especially at a quarterback in a class where there are no other quarterbacks. Of course, a guy with that kind of talent should have gone high, but there is an issue with his mental processing. He does not read the field very well. He does not see things. A lot of times he gets stuck on a receiver, and that causes a lot of issues. Maybe you can fix that, but I don't know. Like, are you able to fix a player not being able to mentally process the field? Like, were his coaches at Liberty not trying to fix that? I don't
Yeah, so
see what's going on with him.
yeah, I don't know. It's gonna obviously didn't give up on him yet because that'd be stupid. But as I said, I just don't really think I don't think he's gonna be a factor in this league for 2 to 3 years, which is fine. But I saw some people comparing. This was just funny to me. But I saw some people comparing Lamar Jackson to me. Obviously, their comparison's been going around for a while, but talking about his most recent preseason game, they were saying, early in his career, Lamar Jackson, tried to use his legs way too much, blah blah blah. I went back and I watched Lamar Jackson's actually first couple of preseason games, and the difference between like stupid plays, I guess, or trying to do too much was way different. Lamar Jackson's mental readiness was like all there, I feel like. So the discredit with that is just a little crazy to me. And the Lamar Jackson hate, I am so ready for this man to go out there and prove I am a top 5 quarterback in this league. And let me show you why. Because the hate, or not there's hate for him.
No, it's hate. There's a lot of hate.
There's hate. That's what I'm saying. There's hate for him, but like the stupidity is like what it is that just does it to me. Because like obviously there's people hating on Tom Brady for God's sake. So I mean like there's always going to be hate out there, but it's just like the stupidity when it comes to Lamar Jackson. I mean, people are saying he threw more interceptions last year, blah blah blah, like all this stuff, and like it's just crazy to me. Like you can use they use one stat against this guy to show he's shit. So I mean, he had one good year, his one good MVP year. Yeah, okay. Well, let's
he
see
only
what he does
threw
this
50
year.
touchdowns.
Yeah, so it's just like it's ridiculous, and that's actually takes me to another point with the NFL. I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about the AFC West this year. Understandably, I mean, I feel like all those teams have, you could tell me all of those teams have a shot to win a division, and I think some teams have a better chance than others, but I could see your point. But another team, the AFC North, I mean, I could see 3 of those teams winning the division if you give me a good argument for it. I mean, I don't see the Browns winning it because part of me, I just hate the Browns now. And I just can't see Jacoby Brissett doing that much damage in that division. But if you tell me the Ravens are going to win the division, if you tell me the Bengals are going to win the division, even if a Steelers fan was to tell me that they were going to win the division with the best points that they could tell me, I could say, all right, I see your reasoning, but I think that is going to be maybe the second best division in football next year.
Yeah, both of those divisions are so fun. They're always fun. Those divisions. Ever since Mahomes has gotten there for his division at least, but the North, it's always such a bloodbath, and you never know who's going to win that. Like honestly, obviously you don't think the Browns are going to win, but if the Browns were to come out as the top, as like the leader of that division, it wouldn't surprise me honestly, because every single year
Their
somebody
schedule
crazy
sucks,
wins
too.
that. Yeah,
It's not that hard. That doesn't suck, but like
they're just a team that has a very high floor because they have Nick Chubb. When you have Nick Chubb in that offensive line, you're gonna win a lot of games. Like you see that with the Eagles. Like you're able to win games by if you can run the ball.
And I mean, Nick Chubb is a hell of a lot better than any running back the Eagles have on their roster right now. And
yeah, well, honestly, like the difference between running backs in the NFL is so like slim. There's not much of a difference. It really comes down to offensive line and scheming at the end of the day. And I think that both of those teams are very good. They have great offensive lines, obviously, but they're also very great at scheming. I like Stefanski's run, like the way that he sets up his run blocking and the way that their guards pull in that scheme. And the same thing with the Eagles. That's what really separates these bottom feeder teams from the teams that are able to at least stay competitive every season.
one thing with the Browns is, especially a lot of Browns fans are very like okay with the fact that Kareem Hunt might not be on the roster because their running back room is pretty damn good. I mean, like
It's
they
the
have a
best
lot
in
of
the league.
guys. Yeah, and I mean, like if you're the Browns, like why would you give Kareem Hunt what is he asking for? I think it was like $8 to $10 million a year, and like that makes no sense for them. So I mean, personally, I don't know why he hasn't been traded yet. I mean, I know like Nick Chubb has said all this stuff about like he's like one of my best friends, blah blah blah. Like, okay, like what that's cool, whatever. By the end of the day, but it doesn't make sense at all for the Browns to keep him for what he's asking for.
I think it's going to end up going exactly like the Jay Ajayi trade a few years ago. They hold it out. He plays as kind of like a backup for them for a little bit until the trade deadline, and then you move him for really whatever you can get for him. Because like it's worth it having Kareem Hunt on your roster for the Browns.
Yeah.
Like you don't really need to get rid of him for like what are you going to get, a 5th round pick right now? What's the point? Keep him on the team for a few weeks. Make sure Nick Chubb is healthy. Make sure Dearness Johnson's still that guy, which I'm sure he is. He was exceptional in the one game that he played. But there's just a lot of reasons to keep him for now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, I just if what he's saying is like if he's not going to play and just like all that stuff, like if it becomes more of a problem than it has to be, I just feel like they're sitting in a position where like it makes it easy. Like, okay, like
Yeah, you don't
whatever.
have to keep him.
We don't have to keep him, but for his case, I mean, I just feel like it would be smart, play it because I don't think anyone's going to give him that contract extension right now. He was hurt last year. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I don't know. It's a weird situation kind of,
Yeah,
but I like that Jay Ajayi comparison.
very similar players.
People like Felton, their 4th guy on the depth chart right now too. I mean, like they're
Okay.
like
If you want
apparently
to put some stock in Demetric Felton, be my guest, man.
I mean,
Like,
they like him. They like him. So I mean, that's just another thing. And then if you can have a great back and 2 decent backs in Felton and Dearness Johnson, and you could avoid that problem, that's just something I'd look at. I mean, obviously having that tandem of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb is fantastic, but it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out at the end of the day. It's a business.
I just don't like the way that the Browns run their team. It's just
Oh, the Browns are just.
But even their offense, like the way that they switch out running backs in between each drive, it kills me. I don't understand. Like they will not put Nick Chubb in on a 3rd and 1 in a drive if it's not his drive. Like it'll just be Kareem Hunt's drive for that drive, which I don't understand that. But I don't know. That was just a point that I wanted to make. That always bothers me when I watch the Browns, especially from a fantasy perspective.
I was just gonna say that's a little bit of fantasy in you right there.
I was a Nick Chubb owner last season, and it kind of pissed me off when he finished with 16.3 points with 150 yards and a touchdown. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
but that's the Browns for you. That's how they run their team.
I mean, another thing that I don't think Browns fans are really like taking that much into consideration. I think an injury to Amari Cooper and you have a bottom 5 wide receiver.
Anthony Schwartz would be your wide receiver 1.
Like, it's just like, what are you doing?
I think they'll make a move for a receiver before the year, though.
Well, they should because like that wide receiver room is David Bell right now is their 3rd wide receiver on the roster, which I like.
What about like a Jalen Reagor for a Kareem Hunt move? I feel like that's kind of like a best of both worlds on that one.
It would be. I mean,
but player for player trades never happen.
It. Maybe if it was Madden, it would make sense.
Oh,
I feel like if like like the little bar, it would be like we need a little more. Like the Browns would be like, give us a 5, give us a 5. It would be like, all right.
Yeah, so, they deserve it to take on Rager's contract.
I mean, apparently Rager's look decent, but I just think he has to go. Like there's just that wide receiver from the Eagles. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, like the talent they've got over the past 2 years, and they've completely changed that wide receiver room. It looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, staying in that division though, the Cowboys, they had a breakout star the other day in Kevontae Turbin, who I saw a lot of people start taking credit on Twitter and say, or on Twitter and all these social media saying, I just found the next Devin Hester. Like, no, dude, he had 2 kick returns in the same game. And like, so what? Now he's the next Devin Hester. This guy, he's 26 years old. He's 5'9". He's 150. He's not like the NFL.
It's a cool story. You
Yeah, but
know,
it happens every year. I mean, look back to the Browns last season.
I was just
In
thinking, yeah,
their preseason, they had this one guy. I can't remember his name,
the
but he came
homeless
in.
guy.
Yeah, the homeless guy from the streets of Cleveland.
Yeah,
And he came in. He had that touchdown. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, he's making the roster. This guy, he's going to be like an elite returner." Never heard of him again.
yeah, and
It's
especially
preseason.
like this guy's getting a little overhyped too because he was the MVP for the USFL last spring. I mean, he was never like, obviously I did my fair dues after those two returns. I was like, yeah, let's see what he's about. But as soon as I saw that he was 26 years old and like was never really looked at in the NFL, I was like, it's a cool story, but that's really it. Like he'll be able to tell his kids that he had two kickoff returns in the same game in preseason. I think that'll be his highlight,
Yeah,
which is cool. But like I don't know. I've seen some cowboy like my favorite one actually. If you were talking about on Twitter, like the Devin Hester comparisons, all that. My favorite one was a Cowboys fan commenting, "Our specials teams unit is going to be the decipher. Like that's what's going to like put us like over the top."
well, I don't know, man. Talk to Packers fans. That was what took them down last season. That's what held them back. If they literally could have punted the ball, kicked a field goal, done anything right on special teams, they might have won a Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, they definitely would have been. I mean, that was crazy. That game last year. I mean, that punt. As soon as that mishandled punt happened, the blocked punt, excuse me, I was like, this game is done.
And
Like
that it was all year for the Packers, man. They had the worst special teams ever. But then again, I the special teams never going to bring you over the edge.
that's what I'm saying. Like you could have like that's like you could have the best special teams, which obviously helps. Like there's no question about that. But I feel like the difference between having the worst special teams and having the best special teams is different. Like if you have
It's
the
literally
worst,
like 4 yards of field position between having the
yeah.
best special team and the worst, and like a medium special team.
So I mean, like I thought that was just funny. Like the Dallas Cowboys fans were really like, this is gonna like this is what's gonna be like our over the edge fact. Like okay, like whatever you got to say to convince yourself, Cowboys fans. That's one thing I'm really excited about for this season. Just see like these crazy like takes. Like I don't know, like the Cowboys ones are always fun. And like another thing I'm excited to see is the NFL memes account where it says still checking who there or whatever.
And then
It's
there's
just
just
really
the
fun.
the
The
picture.
face,
Yeah,
yeah. And I'm excited for
classic
that.
meme. Classic meme.
And every time I see it, I smile. So that's just one thing I'm looking forward to.
I think
But
that's gonna
we
be a
were
pretty big picture this year.
I agree. I mean, I saw some people, I don't know what their over under is right now. I think it was 10 and a half or 9.5. I forget. But I don't know. I don't see it with them. As we mentioned, their window is closed.
Yeah, they're set at 10.5 right now. I'm
Yeah,
taking the under
I'm taking the
easily.
under easily. And I've seen people, you always see like the 12 wins people for the Cowboys. Michael Irwin said they cleaned some things up. This team could be the best team since the Dolphins, like those Dolphin Super Bowl teams. So
I'm
it's always
interested in
fun.
what he thinks they cleaned up in this offseason because, in my opinion, they got so much worse this offseason.
No,
Their
that's
key
the thing.
additions.
He said, go ahead.
I'm looking at a thing right here. It says their key additions. Number 1, wide receiver James Washington. Number 2, first round pick Tyler Smith, who everybody like laughed at because he was obviously not ready, was not a first round pick. Number 3, defensive end Dante Fowler, who is a bomb. He is
he's
certified garbage. And now their key losses, on the other hand, Amari Cooper, Lyle Collins, Randy Gregory. Those are 3 players that are all like very,
There were
very good.
keys.
They were key
to their
pieces.
success.
And this is at 1 year after losing a lot more of your key pieces to like the other free agency. I remember they lost both their corners in the guy that went to the Dolphins and the guy that went to the Bengals. I can't, for whatever reason,
Byron
Awuzie and
Jones.
Jones.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
That slipped my mind for a second. That's old
Yeah,
Cowboys.
good.
That's when they had the best defense in the league, man.
they as we mentioned last episode, that window is closed, and it's just like
Absolutely.
obvious, and like Cowboys fans have to realize that. But you said the Gregory thing, and like my favorite thing about, I mean, NFL fans in general, you can't just say Cowboys fans, but like when a guy like Gregory leaves your team with a great year and he gets a decent amount of money, all Cowboys fans were like, he had one great year. Like, why would we extend him? Like, he's very streaky, which is like which is true in some cases, but like it's just so funny because you know that meme where it's like the angry guy crying, but it has like the sad, like the happy face over it. Like that's just like all it is to me. So like the Cowboys are done, and I think they're just going to be like irrelevant. If I'm being honest with you, like obviously they have like what is it like their 6 primetime games because who they are, but they're just they got that Dak contract now, which I like Dak, but he's Dak Prescott at the end of the day. That's all he is. And you got one good wide receiver, so have fun.
Yeah, they had so much talent on that team, and it all just started just kind of walking. Every bit of the talent just started walking on that team.
Really. So I
Kind of
mean,
sad.
fuck the Cowboys. Staying in the
I
NFC
like good
though.
football.
I
They were
like good
playing good
football.
football.
Yeah, but it's just like they always talk about like annoying fan bases and like obviously like the Eagles fan base is annoying, obviously like Patriots fan base is annoying, but like nothing just ticks you off more than the Cowboys fan base. Like I swear to God, you see like the most minor move in Super Bowl our year,
Yeah.
and it's just funny because like I know it's like the meme, like the our year starter pack, but like they all look the same. Like they all wear the same, like that one Des Bryant navy blue at the top jersey with like the white, like I can see them all, and they all got that haircut. Like they're all the same player, all the same fans. So I mean,
We're
they're just funny.
stereotyping. We're
The
stereotyping Cowboys fans right now.
Yeah, I am. I am. So everybody who's a Cowboys fan, I know what you look like. But moving on to the NFC right now, we have the Bucks. I wanted to talk about, and Tom Brady returned today, which is a good news for them. People were talking about that. I think is a little like whatever. He took his little hiatus. He's won 6 rings. He can do whatever the fuck he wants, in my opinion. But the biggest thing with that is they have 2 offensive linemen out now for the entire year, apparently. And that offensive, they have
Both of their left guards, their center,
Ryan Jensen,
Jensen Marpet is down.
and
Their backup
Cindy.
their backup left guard is down, and I don't know what's going on with Wirfs. Is he back yet? Or I'm not
He's
sure
still
what's going on.
I actually looked. He's not practicing yet.
Yeah, so they
So I
are
mean,
missing their whole O line basically, and they
everybody
just lost their left tackle to the or no, it was their
Bengals.
Kappa to the Bengals.
Yeah, so I mean,
Alex Kappa.
like they are in a bad position, and I mean, like I know Tom Brady's a quarterback that tends to make his offensive line look a little better than he is because he just has a fast release. But like, Jesus, like how much better can he make this line look right now? It looks awful. And if I was Tom Brady right now, I'd be like, damn, like I should have retired. Like,
But this is what Aaron Rodgers was working with last year. His whole O line was out, and like literally, they were missing Jenkins, they were missing Bakhtiari, they were missing. They lost Corey Linsley. They had, I think, John Runyon Jr. starting at left guard. They had pretty much nobody at right tackle because there was no Alton Jenkins. So like these great quarterbacks, they make it work. But we saw a bit of a tick down in Rodgers' production last season, even though he won his MVP. There was still a tick down in the production. I think we're going to see that from Brady.
The one difference I just see there is like obviously Aaron Rodgers is a little more mobile, but I feel like the Packers just over the past couple of years have just kind of like mastered like the revolving of the offensive line, and like the Bucks, especially since Brady got there, they've just had like that security, like like we have a top 10 offensive line in the league, and that's just what it is. And like if you're gonna go from like having that stability to just like we're going to have to learn how to rotate these guys and like use the best of their abilities. This will be a little hard to start the year. And I agree with you. I think Brady's stats are going to take a little downfall, but like, obviously I still think he's going to be Tom Brady. So that's just a little something to look at, especially when your guys, how old is he now? 42?
Brady?
Yeah.
He's like
42,
44.
43. Yeah. I forgot how old is, yeah. I just want to look that up just to
He's
make
getting
sure.
up there, man. I think
45.
45.
45. Jesus.
God,
yeah.
damn.
Yeah, so I mean, like your quarterback is 40. That's crazy. Like I actually thought he was like 43. To be honest,
I really hope he's playing till he's 50, man. That would be so funny.
He is 45. You're gonna have a 45-year-old man back there behind what might be a bottom 10 offensive line. So that's gonna be something to look at. Will they fix it? We'll see. But it's just a little thing I feel like you got to look at. But in that division, I mean, I don't like their offensive line, but I like the Saints offense. Like I really like that offense.
Well, Michael Thomas is hurt.
He's always
Again.
hurt. Yeah, another hamstring
huge,
injury.
though.
And I just I don't see Michael Thomas ever returning to his full form, if I'm being quite honest. Like, hamstring injuries are huge. I feel like that those are just like always an injury you see where like they say at first, like, it's only gonna be like 2 to 3 weeks, but then like it always extends. They're just never like the same. They never have the same type of boost, I guess you could say. So that's definitely
Exactly.
something to look at. But like healthy, that offense with Michael Thomas, I'm just saying, Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, uh, so that's three wide receivers right there. I mean, I like their. I feel like there was someone else in my mind I was missing.
Yeah, it's
I
Callaway.
but
It's Marcus Callaway.
okay,
But
Marquez. Yeah,
even then, he was pretty trash last
he
year.
was a
And then,
fantasy bust last year for me. So I don't. He was supposed to be my guy, but he
yeah,
wasn't. Um, I like their running backs. I mean, how can you not like Alvin Kamara? Their tight end is they have decent tight end. I think his third year,
Adam
but
Troutman, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, like I like Winston too. I mean, he had very good stats before he got hurt last year. The defense, I think, is going to be a top 5 unit this year. So I mean, and that's one thing. I mean, if their rival in that division this year is the Bucks, the Saints defense knows how to bitch Tom Brady. So I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like that's a little sleeper team going on. I just hate their offensive line. And one player that I just think is funny that the Saints fan base keeps backing up as a good pick was Ruiz. I mean, he looks like shit. Like he just made some plays where I'm like, what are you doing? Like
He
there's
tackled his
I
own
saw
running back.
I was gonna yeah, I saw a play. I was just gonna say I saw a play where he tackled his own play a couple of days ago. So I don't know. I just think they're gonna be one of those teams where like they can be really good, but like they obviously have like their struggles, but I think their offseason was just very underrated because it could have went disastrously, and I thought it was gonna go disastrously, but like somehow with all of that like dead cap, they add Jarvis Landry, somehow kept Michael Thomas, somehow got the Honey Badgers, which I'm gonna be honest, I think that signing was a little overrated,
He's
but like
washed.
he's I did like Marcus May signing though, but he is
Oh, a
coming
lot.
off an ACL injury, which is gonna be a little bit, but I really like that signing. Um, they have one of the best cornerback rooms still, and like I don't know, I just feel like the Saints GM should get a lot of credit for like keeping this team not only a contender, but like they can win the division. I think.
Yeah, Mickey Loomis has done a very good job as their GM, but I honestly disagree with the Saints, and I feel like I'm just gonna try and be a little bit different here because there's a lot of people that are very high on the Saints. They're like everybody's favorite sleeper team this year. I look at their offensive line, and I think Trevor Penning is one of the worst. He's going to be one of the worst tackles in the league as a rookie. He's got the athletic profile to potentially maybe be good if they have a great offensive coach that can teach him not how to be an asshole as a lineman. Um, so, but I don't think he's going to be good right away. He's definitely not. But he's starting at left tackle for them. So you've got him. You've got Ruiz, who I think is one of the worst guards in the league. I honestly, Eric McCoy is their center. He's very good. I don't know who they have at right guard, so I'm assuming it's not somebody that great. And at right tackle, they've got Ramczyk, he's good, but he's not very. He's kind of an injury risk. So there's that. You're really betting on Ramczyk being healthy to even have a decent offensive line, and then you have the receiver room where you have it was arguably the worst receiver room in the league last year, and you have Michael Thomas who hamstring injury, like you said. Who knows when you come back from a hamstring injury? We haven't seen Michael Thomas play in a long time. And when we did, when he came back for that few game stretch, he was decent. He wasn't great. He was decent. So you've got that. Marquez Callaway, okay. Jarvis Landry, okay. He was basically cut from Cleveland last year. He's
I
more of a
really like
leader.
Chris Olave.
Olave is good, but he's a rookie wide receiver. And how much production are you going to get out of a rookie wide receiver who you were expecting to be opposite of Michael Thomas, taking away that bracket coverage and being the guy deep? But now you don't have that anymore. You're really relying on him to be your wide receiver one. And then you have Jameis Winston, good quarterback, not top 10 quarterback. Is he the guy that's going to make this offense work if Alvin Kamara gets suspended? Because that, like, who knows what happens with that? He's still in a lot of trouble for that situation where he beat up, I'm pretty sure it was an old man. So, like, you can't do that. And he's going to get suspended eventually, whether it's this year or next year. And their
I
offense
saw
scares
something
me.
about that, about the Kamara suspension actually, and they said it probably is going to be pushed next year, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But
Which
like,
is why I'm not putting. I saw that same thing. I'm not putting much stock into that because, like, why? Why would it be pushed to next year? Until I get like some actual definitive proof, I'm working under or I'm working under all the facts right now. Injured team on offense with their star players, not very like you can't really rely on Kamara every game because there's that looming. And then who's your backup running back? Tony Jones? He was terrible last year. Mark Ingram at 35 years old? Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then their defense, they've got okay edge rushers. You're really expecting Marcus Davenport to break out. And if he's not breaking out, you don't have much. You need him and Peyton Turner to break out to get even a decent defensive line. Demario Davis is great. He's getting old. So there's just a lot of issues with that team. And they can't play the too high safety look like most teams can, because that's not what Marcus May and Tyrann Mathieu do well. Those guys are both guys that like to come down into the box. So I feel like it's kind of a poorly built team as far as schematic wise. And then you lose Sean Payton. I don't like that at all.
I like what they did with their head coach hire, though. I mean, I feel like that was the best move you could have made, if I'm being honest with you. And I'm just saying, based off of that division, based off of like the Bucks offensive line struggles right now, and I just can't see them I can't see them finishing lower than second in that division, obviously. So like I don't see a world where finishing first is crazy. And that if I'm trying to, that's my point. Because you got the Panthers, you got the Falcons, and you play both of those teams 2 times a year, no matter what. And then, as I said, no matter where the Saints were, like, they know how to beat Brady, it just seems like. And especially with their defensive coordinator taking that step as their head coach, I just feel like they know what to do against them. And like, that's going to be huge down the line. I'm going to be honest, I haven't taken a look at the Saints schedule, but I don't know. I just feel like they have a chance to be like the sleeper. I don't see them winning the Super Bowl, but like, if there's, like, as you said, we're talking about the AFC North earlier, like there's always that team where like you don't expect it. And like, like there's people saying like Saints are their sleeper this year, but I don't know. Like I can just see a world where like they win that division and you're like, hey, makes sense.
Yeah, if they stay fully healthy, I completely see it. It's just, when is the last time the Saints have stayed fully healthy?
And that's definitely a great point there. But like, it's like that's like the name of the game in the NFL. Like whoever stays healthy is gonna have the best chance to win it. Like the Bengals last year had the best luck. They didn't have a star get hurt. Joe Mixon, who's had his injury history throughout his whole NFL career, didn't get hurt. Joe Burrow, coming off that injury, didn't get hurt, and which was very surprising because their offensive line, even though they made the Super Bowl, was still shit. None of like Jamar Chase didn't get hurt. T. Higgins didn't get hurt. Tyler Boyd didn't get hurt. So like like it always comes down to, at the end of the day, in my opinion, like out of the good teams and the great teams, like which one can stay the healthiest? Because obviously we saw a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs. People who use that Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes, I think, are the most retarded, stupid people in the world. And like, you just can't do that because that offensive line was horrible. It had its injuries, and like, that's just like a point, like you can't. It all comes down to that at the end of the day.
Yeah, I totally agree. Offensive line is very important. But we are running a little bit low on time. If you want to move to the NBA real quick.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Again, like dead days of the off season, not much going on. We just had the crossover league go on. Only lasted a quarter and a half till it got canceled.
Yeah, first half.
But again, that was an awesome thing for Seattle. They need a team. Obviously, everybody knows it. They're going to get a team. And this was a great first step to have all those stars back in Seattle. But the real talking point of the NBA today, and really probably the only thing we're even going to hit on, is Donovan Mitchell. And the fact that the Jazz are asking for more than Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickly, and 5 first-round picks.
It's ridiculous.
What do you think Donovan Mitchell is? Who do you think Donovan Mitchell is, Utah? Like, you have the opportunity to get 10 first-round picks in return for a team that was an absolute joke. Could not make it out of the second round. You have the opportunity to get 10 first-round picks for that team.
And a team that hated each other, like, quite frankly, like your stars hated each other. And, like, if I'm the Knicks, like, that was the trade where, like, obviously, like, they're trying to make this home run move. And you can't, as we've talked about on other episodes, like, especially if you're a GM who should be on the hot seat, but it's the Knicks. So, like, he'll probably have his job for the next 15 years because they like to just stay at like ass. But you can't hate this move. If I'm a Knicks fan and we give up these 5 first-round picks, but we only have to give up Obi Toppin, who like shown his flashes, but like that's really it. Like we all know who Obi Toppin would have been great if he was drafted the same year Blake Griffin was drafted. Like that's just like the way I look at him, if that makes any sense. And that Evan Fournier contract sucks. Knicks fans hate him. Like I think he's making over $12 million a year, and like
well over 12.
Yeah,
It's close to 20. I think it's 4 years at 19 a year. I think it's 4 years, 72, something like that. So 18 a year.
Yeah. So I mean, just like I'm just gonna get the exact real quick. Yeah, 4 years, $73 million a year. So I mean, and he's 29 years old. And the thing, I feel like that was really good. But like I just thought that contract was so stupid. I mean, like he never gave me like the flashes, like like he never showed. And to get a deal like that, even to just show flashes, I would be like, that's a little crazy. But if you're the Knicks fan, you can't really hate that. You're getting a bad contract off. Yeah, you're giving 5 first-round picks, but I'm not giving anything more. If what do you think they're asking for more of? You think they're asking for more first-round picks?
It's got to be Barrett.
But that's the thing. Like, in no world, if I'm a Knicks fan, if that trade reads even 3 first-round picks, but you give RJ Barrett instead, I hate that trade because personally, I really like RJ Barrett. I mean, I feel like he's shown like his flashes, and especially in a big stage like New York, like he's gotten better. And he's not your first offensive guy, obviously, but you bring in a guy like Mitchell, and you got yourself a decent squad right there. I mean, I think RJ Barrett has very good defensive potential, and he definitely showed his flashes of that last year, which I really like of that. You bring in a guy like Donovan Mitchell to go along with that, who has shown his flashes of not giving a shit about defense. Like there's always that like onset offset, and like if you're the Knicks right now, what you're trying to do is make the playoffs at least, and you just paid Jalen Brunson $100 million, which we've discussed, which is a little bit of obviously an overpay. But if you're putting out a team of Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, RJ Barrett, what's his name? Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. You have a decent bench, but at the end of the day, Tom Thibodeau is just gonna like fuck that team over, no matter if that team happens. So I don't know. I feel like that is the only trade I'm going with if I'm the Knicks. Stand your ground, because he wants to be a Knick, and I don't know. That's just my take on that.
Yeah, I think what's really ruining this whole thing for the Knicks is the fact that they have Danny Ainge running the Jazz, who literally his whole career is just built around squeezing every bit of value he can out of every trade, which I get it, but there's a reason he's not the GM in Boston anymore. Like,
yeah,
you can't win like that. You can't
win
trying to maximize every value. Yeah, sometimes you just got to make the move and be okay with it because you're going to compete. Like, yeah, you might lose a trade. That's fine. You're not trying to win trades. You're trying to win championships. And Danny Ainge doesn't understand that. A lot of this for him is more of just a game within the game. Like, I want to win every single trade that I make. I want to be the guy that fleeces everybody. And that's what he's always tried to do. But that stops him from making the moves that really need to be made. Marcus Smart for the Celtics should have been traded a long time ago when he was at his peak value. Marcus, sure, he had a great year last year. He won Defensive Player of the Year. I'll put that in air quotes because he did not deserve Defensive Player of the Year. He probably didn't even deserve to be top 5. But, Doris Burke and her narratives. So, but he should have been traded a long time ago when he had actual value, when people viewed him as like an up-and-coming star, like a D Wade type of player. And you had a lot of like guards on your roster at that point. But no, they just stuck with all the guards. They still have that issue pretty much with a lot of guards on the roster. They just never really decided to move on and just take their loss.
And the other thing with the Jazz right now, like that roster is awful. And like the only thing you're doing to yourself, personally, this is what I think, but if you're the Jazz, just keeping them on your roster is hurting you much more than is helping you. Like you're gonna end up winning maybe like over a full season, I guess. How many more games do you think Donovan Mitchell adds to that win total? Like right now, I'd say like 10.
5, 10, yeah.
5, 10, something.
Not more than 10, I can tell you that.
That's the thing. but also say he adds 10 more wins. That pick drop, like the chances of getting a top 5 pick just goes down so much. So like, you know what? Take the L. Like that's literally it. Like you tried it with Gobert, you tried it with Donovan Mitchell, but there's just been there's just so much evidence that Donovan Mitchell is not going to win you a championship, especially as your number one guy. I mean, his defense was atrocious in the playoffs last year. Like that's my deciphering factor, especially if I'm the Jazz. You know, if you're if you're getting an option of 5 first round picks, you get one bad contract, but whatever, and you get a guy like Obi who you could be like a decent player on your team, like take it. And as you said, from 2 guys who hated each other last year, literally did not want to play with each other, and you could get 10 first round picks over that. Like, what
If
are
you
you
were to
doing?
blow up a championship team, you would be happy to get 10 first round picks out of that.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
but you're blowing up a team that never even made it past the second round, and you could still get that. And that's not even counting giving up Jordan Clarkson, who I think he's got a lot of value in the league too. He's at least a first round pick.
Yeah, first
at least pick. One. So like, I feel like again, Danny Ainge is really hurting the team by doing this, and he's done it a lot of times.
And just say you trade Jordan Clarkson for a first round pick, and you take that Knicks deal, they would have 12 first round picks from this offseason because the Royce O'Neal one earlier in the off.
They got a first for Royce O'Neal, and they're not willing to take their first for Donovan Mitchell. Man, I don't know.
Like that's 12 first round. Like yes, I do understand. Like if I'm being honest, like
Mike
there's
Conley
always
too.
Yeah,
you get some from Mike Conley. Make it 13.
That's what, like exactly. Like it's just like I do think people tend to like a little bit overrate like picks, I guess you could say, like which is like with the Knicks case, I guess you could say like the Knicks are looking at this like if we're gonna make this trade, like we don't want those picks to be like a deciphering factor for us, which like makes sense for like the way they're trying to build their roster right now. But like those picks in 3 years, if the Jazz are looking to, because you know in the NBA like things change so fast. Like in 2 years, you could literally in some cases be looking to compete. And the only thing holding Jazz back is I can literally not think of a free agent signing they've had in the past couple of years. But like a major guy who's gone there. So like that's one thing holding them back. Like they have to learn how to draft to get their guys in a lot of situations. But like I don't know, they could be used to in future years. Like those Knicks picks in 3 years could be used to get a trade for
but as you were saying, like you need to know how to draft. You have if you hit 13 chances to draft, you're gonna hit on one, I think, at least. Like that's what the Thunder are building right now. Well, hopefully. But even if you're not even making the right pick, one of those picks might end up just being high and you look into one of those players. And who better to bet on being bad than the New York Knicks? Like,
yeah,
this is you brought up the point the other day that this kind of reminds you of the Carmelo Anthony trade. Just a hometown guy coming back, just a scorer, no defense, doesn't really love to play winning basketball, but he puts up big numbers. That in the Carmelo Anthony years, they were having high picks. Like they weren't taking them because they were in Denver, but like they were around the 11th pick, the 12th pick, the third. I mean, they finished as high as there was 1 year where they finished.
They had that
seed.
one good year.
They had one good year, but outside of that, and I think it was probably I don't remember the exact trade for Melo, but at least 3 first round picks. I'm sure that
it was like 3 first round picks, Gallinari, like someone else, but
yeah, like there's value for that kind of stuff, and I feel like the Nuggets didn't hate making that move. Like there's not a reason for the Jazz not to make this move for me because they're not competing with Mitchell.
Going back on that Carmelo, like the whole Carmelo saga in New York, like he's like the reason I feel like they just never were able to do anything. Like he didn't care about winning. That's just like he cared about his stats. Because if he cared about the only thing I have to hear or had to hear to just like get this point in my brain was the whole Jeremy Lin thing. He wanted like he just wanted him off the roster because he was like, whoa, this guy's getting more attention than me. Like, fuck that. Like, are you kidding me? Like, and Knicks fans act like this dude was like, oh, he never was given a chance. He never had the opportunity. No, like he wanted to just be this guy averaging 28 points a game. And that's all he wanted to be.
And
So I mean,
28
like,
points a game in his documentary series that he's producing for himself.
that's
And
ridiculous.
everyone's
Like,
excited for that. Like, bro, not everybody needs a documentary. Melo is a borderline Hall of Famer, for being honest.
and if in the NBA, he's a Hall of
Well,
Famer
yeah,
because
yeah, I
the
guess
NBA,
that's borderline top
if
75, I should say.
yeah, I mean, and I don't know if I'm gonna be honest. Like, if you show me the top 75 list and then you show me the people who are on the bubble of it, I'd probably say I would take a few people on the bubble if I'm trying to win basketball games.
Oh,
If you know what I
absolutely,
mean.
absolutely.
But that's just another like funny point. Like the difference between those Hall of Fames, the NBA, NFL, MLB. Like you got to be a superstar to get in the MLB Hall of Fame or the NFL, NBA Hall of Fame. I've seen people say, who is that I can't think of the six man for the Bulls back in the Jordan
Kukoc.
era.
Tony Kukoc.
People think he's a Hall of Fame. Like he has a
Man,
shot.
this
Like
morning on Twitter, I saw Lance Stevenson in Hall of Fame using the same sentence. I had to turn the app off. They were like, well, he had that great year in Indiana. He really could have been a Hall of Famer. I was like, bro, come on. Lance Stevenson, man. That's
that
just, might as well just say J.R. Smith is a Hall of Famer at that point.
oh man, if we're going by 2K though, J.R. Smith is 100% a Hall of Famer.
Gerald
But
Green's the best player of all time.
you're right on that. What was I gonna say? The Pacers though, you just like that just reminded me of like those old Pacer teams. Like the Pacers have had some like fun teams like
Oh,
over the past
absolutely.
couple of years, and like they're just like, in my opinion, like an underrated franchise. Like I feel like they've like been there. Like if it wasn't for like the Heat, like I could have seen Paul George having that ring a couple years, not a couple now, but like over 10 years ago. That's crazy. But like they went to 7 games, I think, with that Miami Heat team, if I'm
Either
not wrong.
6.
6 or 7, yeah.
Either
But
way,
still,
PG, like he's got one of the most underrated careers in the league. At the peak of his prime, which he had 2 separate primes, the one in Indiana and then the year where he was MVPG 13 in
should have
OKC.
won.
I
Should have won.
agree. I absolutely agree. I mean, obviously you give it to Harden because of like the numbers or whatever.
Because Harden should have won like a couple. Like
Yeah,
James, one thing on you're talking about like Twitter and like different narratives. Like I saw this one and I absolutely agreed with it. Like Harden changed the way that you look at like scoring
stats.
numbers,
Mhm.
because like it was like I saw this one and it was like Harden made the other player of the week look like ass. Like I saw this one, it was Pascal Siakam. He was averaging like 24 points, and it was the week when James Harden was averaging 42 points a game. So like it's just like so funny. Like the
I just
difference.
remember going to a game though and watching James Harden drop a 55-point triple double, like live, and walking out of there not even realizing it was that much. Like he just scores so effortlessly, and like James Harden is such a crazy like person to study because like how he scores so effortlessly and he's so great at what he does, but he plays such a different brand of basketball than everybody else. Like he is a basketball team himself. You can put anybody around him and he
Make
makes
him
it
look better.
work in his own way. It's incredible what him and D'Antoni did, and it's a damn shame that Chris Paul got hurt and it didn't result in a ring because we would be talking about James Harden like probably on Kobe level at this point, if you're asking me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I remember watching that series and watching Chris Paul get hurt. Like, because I obviously remember you watching that series. I remember talking about that series with you. Even like they looked better,
Every
like than the
game.
Warriors. They looked better, and that is a damn shame. And
Game
the Le-
7, I'm sorry, but game 7 in that series where they shot like 0 for 50 from 3, they were getting open looks. Everything
yeah,
just went wrong in that game. I don't care what anybody's saying. They were the best team in the NBA that season, and they didn't have the best player in the NBA because it was still LeBron. And LeBron in that season, I think that would have been a much more fun finals.
finals, absolutely.
But go ahead.
No, that's really it. I mean, like I'm just really sad that that Chris Paul and Harden duo didn't work out, because I feel like if that happened like even 2 years earlier, man, like we would have saw a ring, because that was I was actually looking at a couple of highlights from that team. It was beautiful basketball. I mean, there was so many things going into that year, which honestly, looking back at it, I think is so dumb. Like the whole like, how is Chris Paul and Harden going to learn how to share the ball? Where
How is Chris Paul going to learn how to share
yeah,
the ball? I
like
wonder.
do you remember that one meme video where it was like the Will Ferrell. I've never watched the movie.
Passing back and forth.
Yeah,
For
like
the,
that one. I never got that because like that was never been Chris Paul's game, like a ball hog or like look how much better he made Devin Booker. Like that's my whole like narrative on it. And I wish it did work out. And I wish they both weren't like little dramatic little boys about it the way they handled it. But hey, we'll see what happens in Philly. And as he said yesterday, it's another year trying to win an NBA championship. So we'll see. And I'm really excited to see a full offseason worth of a healthy James Harden coming in and playing for this team. He got what he wanted. He got Daniel House. He got PJ Tucker. So I'm excited. That's all I can say about the Sixers. But
it's going to be an interesting season.
That's really all I got for today. And it was a great episode again. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. And we'll see you again. Have a good day.